Alright guys, Atlove Clark. We're going to move on to some more schooling of the Turks. Let's school these turkeys. Alright. The reason for the Second Amendment. Okay. Look at the way the administration is handling the gun control debate in America. On December 14th, 2012, a young man named Adam Lanza killed 6 to 7-year-old children. He had some serious mental problems. He almost looked like a young girl. His parents were divorced. He was living with his mom, and his father wasn't around. Even if these, pause you guys, even if this false flags are made up incidents or whatever, still they go down in history as history, so let's just review them as facts, even if they're not. For the sake of the argument, guys, okay? He had some serious problems. He almost looked like a young girl. His parents were divorced. He was living with his mom, and his father wasn't around. Nearly every time a tragedy like this happens, there's a dysfunctional family in the background. Something is wrong with our family. Yeah, there sure is. There sure is. Now, yes, what is the solution according to the politicians and the media? Ban the guns. The radical left wants to take away people's guns, at least the guns of law-abiding people. The criminals are not about to give up their guns. After the football player Jovan Belcher killed his girlfriend and then himself, Bob Costas said on NFL broadcast on NBC that this wouldn't have happened if Belcher hadn't had a gun. A linebacker's big enough that he could have killed her without a weapon, but they're going after the guns. I'm told that NBC has some of the bloodiest movies on television, yet they're trying to tell Americans to get rid of the guns. Why don't we start with getting rid of the bloody television programs? Is it possible that's a bigger problem? The Second Amendment in the Second Amendment in the United States protects the people right to bear arms, but for what? If you listen to the left, you would never know. To hear them talk about it, its purpose is so Americans can go out and shoot deer. That isn't the reason for the Second Amendment at all. The main point was to protect the citizens from government tyranny. The government might decide to take over, and if you don't have guns or something to defend yourself, what are you going to do? Unless you have God's protection. Why won't the radical liberals mention that? That is the real world that our founding fathers came out of. That is the real world today. But the liberals won't even mention that. Oh, please, they say, that could never happen. But government tyranny is routine in human history, and they know it. Why are they so deceitful? It is because they have an ulterior motive. Let's not be naive and think something like that could never happen here. Our forefathers weren't stupid. They wanted to guarantee Americans freedom. They really knew that God was a God of freedom. He wants us to be free. That's a gift from God, and they understood that. Do you remember how we gained our freedoms? A lot of people bled and a lot of people died to give us the freedoms we have today, and they wouldn't have gotten it without guns, unless God gave it to them. I wonder how many Americans even know that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It is similar to how the Ten Commandments is the supreme law of God's church and the foundations of the entire Bible. It works beautifully if you just apply it. More executive actions. 1938, just before World War II, Hitler made the executive order. Jews are prohibited from acquiring and possessing and carrying firearms and ammunition, as well as truncheons or stabbing weapons. Those now possessing weapons and ammunition are at once to turn them over to the local police authority. Whoever willfully or negligently violates the provisions will be punished with imprisonment and fine. This regulation is valid in the state of Austria and in the southern German districts, Sudeten German districts. He added Sudeten because Germany had already been given that land by Britain, and the Czechs had to go along with it. Britain and France left that this concession would bring peace. Britain and France felt this concession would bring peace. When Neville Chamberlain returned from his negotiations with Hitler, proclaiming peace in our time, the public went almost hysterical with happiness. But we know what happened. There wasn't any hope this would bring peace, but the people wanted it so badly. The same is true today. The devil is always willing to negotiate, but what he wants is total surrender. On January 16, 2013, President Obama signed 23 executive actions on gun control and then urged Congress to pass even stricter gun laws. When he signed those orders, he surrounded himself with little children who had written letters to him asking, Mr. President, would you please do something about the violence in schools? Who wants to debate with him when he has little children all around him? The president is so eager to restrict guns, but what is he doing to stop drug cartels making inroads into America? What about stopping the drug wars between gangs in America's biggest cities? What success has he had in stopping Chicago, his hometown, from becoming the murder capital of the world? I'm sickened by what Adam Lanza did. Pause. That's debatable. Unpause. But what makes me sicker is somebody using this measure to promote a political ideology. Pause, guys. What makes it even sicker is that it's fake to promote it. If it was real, then there would be a reason for something like this, but it's not real. Debatably not real. Unpause. But for the sake of the argument, we're going to read the rest anyway. I think that these 23 executive orders are just about getting around the Constitution and conditioning the minds of the people to accept the president saying, don't worry about the supreme law of the land. Listen to me, just like Antiochus did. Ignoring the Constitution. At the same time, the president is putting more restrictions on guns among the populace. His administration is arming itself to the teeth. What is going on here? Investor's Business Daily editorial writer Andrew Malcolm wrote February 8, 2013, about how the Department of Homeland Security had just placed an order for 21.6 million bullets. Several government agencies have been buying massive amounts of ammunition, even the Social Security Administration of all things. As Malcolm wrote, the government's total store of ammo amounts to sufficient firepower to shoot every American about 5 times. Why does the government need to be so heavily armed, but not the people? The government is showing its tendency more and more to force its will on the public. It passed its healthcare plan even though most of the people said they didn't want it, and not one Republican voted for it. It made all its decisions behind closed doors and assured us, don't worry, we'll take care of it. We know what's good for you. Do they know what's good for us? That bill will result in many more problems than it purports to solve. The president went around the Constitution on the Libyan war. He didn't consult Congress, he just up and did it, essentially saying, I don't need any counsel. I know what I'm doing. I know what's best for America. Look at Libya today. What would you say that executive decision had a good outcome? The president made some deep-seated immigration rule changes without going through Congress. He doesn't have the right to do that, but what can you do about it? The Republicans don't have enough power to stop it. After a while, these incidents remind me of the old story about the frog in the pot. Turn on the stove burner, and let the water heat up slow enough, and before you realize what is happening, the frog's boiled to death. Very true. Though these people on the radical left hate the supreme law of the land. Okay, we're going to stop there. Next we're going to pick up racism is everywhere. I think we might. We might not. I don't know yet.